Do you know what's great about December? The end of year sales. E-commerce websites are a shopper's paradise right now. Let's say you decide to treat yourself. You order a pair of shoes online. They arrive, you take the lid off the box, untie the laces and try wearing the shoes. But they don't fit. So after the initial shock, you request to return them. It is disappointing, but the shoes have never been worn. They're brand new. So at least they'll be back on the shelf. No harm, no foul, right? Wrong. Do you know what happens to the things we order online but don't keep? What happens to the purchases we return? Every time you hit that return button, an unseen reverse supply chain comes to life. The returns logistics industry. It is worth $627 billion. Its basic job is to sort out the returns, see what is salvageable and what is waste. But it's a tough one. That new pair of shoes you send back, it's not defective, but it has an open box and untied laces. Someone will have to put it together. Sometimes companies don't have the technology or the time to handle that. And even if they did, returns are shipped, driven and flown all over the world, sometimes quite a few times for a single item. So returns are expensive for sellers. They often cost more than the items themselves. So companies get rid of them. They try selling the returns cheaply to discounters. For instance, the people who will sell a truckload of TVs for $2,000. This is the most profitable option for returns. But that strategy does not work with all items, especially apparel. So there's a quicker way to handle matters, like dumping the returns in landfills. It may sound absurd, but this is the reality. With a simple click on return button, treasure turns to trash only because it was the wrong color or size. It ends up in landfills. Everyone is not part of the problem. Like the Japanese, they seldom return anything. Unlike the Americans, they are the world's leading purchase returners. They return about 20% of all online purchases. The Americans, every year Americans return about 3.5 billion products, out of which only 20% are actually defective. Last year, they returned products worth $816 billion, and that is more than the US defense budget. Let that sink in. Now, America may be the biggest, but it's not the only contributor. Germans return more than half of what they buy online. 25% of the UK's online orders are returned, same for India. This is a global problem. And it has given birth to an invisible scam, an organized retail crime. It's called wardrobing. Shoppers buy something only to wear it once and then return it. Like buying an expensive dress to wear on Christmas and returning it afterwards. Wardrobing is so common, it makes up about half of the returns, and it doesn't apply to just clothes. A forest's worth of artificial Christmas trees are returned every January. In America, there's a surge in large-screen TV returns after the Super Bowl. This may seem harmless, but it costs retailers money, over $10 for every $100 worth of returns. And this is terrible for the environment. Every year, 5 billion pounds of waste is generated through returns. The transportation creates a huge carbon footprint. America's returns alone generate 16 million metric tons of carbon emissions and 9.5 million pounds of landfill waste each year. That is enough to fill 10,000 Boeing 747 planes. Consumers are partly to blame, yes. Many are quick to buy and quicker to return. Most are unaware of the repercussions. But companies are also at fault here. Over the past few years, they have made returns seamless and free to boost sales. Only this year, retailers finally passed some costs of returns to consumers. Now, stores like H&M and J.Crew charge a fee. Amazon has also started charging $1 per return, but this barely stops anyone from returning purchases. These are e-commerce giants. We're talking about masterminds of supply chains and data analytics. They can do so much more. They can make return logistics transparent. They can speed up the return and refund process. That way, retailers will wait lesser. Fewer returns will end up in landfills, and consumers will also be happy. Companies have great logistics when it matters to them. They know who buys what and when, where their eyes are, where the cursor follows. They have made it so easy to help consumers part with their money. Why not introduce the same level of sophistication when people want to part with their purchase?